Hi and welcome. Nice to have you with us again. We're here to talk about transition talks here from Berkeley Springs, and our guest to be with us almost every year is our good friend Gregg Braden. Hello, Greg. How are you?
Hey, John, I am so happy to be with you, and I'm so excited to be with you and your community in
Yeah,
Berkeley Springs. I think we have done it pretty much every year
yeah, we have done
for
it.
yeah
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
number of years now. You will be my second physical event since February of 2020, and I'm really looking forward to being in front of a live
Well, we're
audience.
gonna have a good time on the
Yeah.
31st of July. Because we will be at the Star Theater, and we've had a whole series of wonderful speakers in person as well as live stream, and we'll do that both on the 31st. And so we'll fill up the Star, I certainly hope, as well
Mm.
as we have this marvelous opportunity for people, no matter where they are, to be able to plug in, and that just expands the opportunities for people to be a part of the whole transition talk process. And so we wanted to talk a little bit today about what you're going to talk about in July, because
Well,
it's
yeah.
always
First, I
wonderful.
want to thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back because
Oh,
it's
of
and I
course.
love the Star Theater. I want to tell everyone if you've never been to the Star Theater, it's historic. It was built 1920s,
Yeah.
refurbished. It's a really awesome place to have a very deep, intimate conversation, and that's what I'm bringing to Berkeley Springs
Yeah. It's great.
when I'm out there. The title of the program, John, is called Pure Human. I want to talk to our community about what's happening in the world right now. I mean, we all know from many perspectives, there's a lot going on. You know, we've got the pandemic, we've got a buckling and collapsing local economy, global economies, we've got social unrest, and all of those things are important, and I want to honor those. But what I want to say, John, is when we get down to the deep truth of what's emerging in our world, all that is noise. It's all static because there's something much deeper that's happening right now. We all know there's a battle for our thoughts playing out in mainstream media. No secret there. There's a battle for our beliefs playing out in the educational system and what we're being taught to think about who we are, where we come from, the nature of the universe. There's a battle for our bodies and what it takes to get healthy, what it takes to stay healthy, what it takes for our children when they're born into this world to be healthy in the world. But there's an even deeper battle that very few people are talking about, John, and that's the core of this conversation that I want to bring to Berkeley Springs. It's a battle for our very humanness.
Mm.
Our very humanness is on the line right now. Technology is evolving so quickly and it is being embraced in some societies much quicker than others, but it is being used to replace basic biological human functions, changing our very biology, changing the demographics of who we are in our society through gene editing before birth. There is a movement called the transhuman movement and or transhumanism movement, as some people call it, that is really pushing this agenda. They're using the crises of the world to very quickly push this agenda. And here's why it's important. This is something that is not going to drag on for 5 or 10 years. It can't last that long. It's unfolding in our lives right now. And the reason that I want to bring this to the attention of our community is because what the science shows is when we begin to replace our natural biology with machines, with computer chips in our brain, wires under our skin, chemicals in our blood, the way our body responds to that, John, is we begin to atrophy the very capacities that we cherish as humans in society. We begin to lose the very abilities that set us apart from many other forms of life in one generation. And once it happens in one generation, you can't go back. In the next generation, we've all heard this before, it's use it or lose it.
Yep.
So a perfect example is the technology that now exists. This isn't down the road. It's here right now. It's being implemented. of implanting computer chips into the brain where the neurons actually fit into ports on the chip that link us directly with the hard drive of a computer. Now, to young people, they hear that and they say, sweet, no keyboard, man, I'm one with my computer. But what people don't often know is that we have specialized neurons in our brain that allow us to download information and to access and learn super information super quick. This is stuff that the NSA, CIA, they know this stuff and they train their people to do it. But we begin to replace our biology with these kinds of functions, and we lose those very functions that we've taken for granted maybe in the past. And it goes throughout the body. The chemicals that we look to give us immunity to disease, those mimic what our bodies already do, except our bodies do it better. If the chemicals begin to do it for us, the question is, do we lose our ability, our natural abilities to do the same thing? So this is important because societies now are being invited to make it look very glamorous, very sexy, to embrace technology into our lives very, very quickly. The new discoveries, one of the things that's happened in the time of COVID, a plethora of new scientific discoveries have been published in peer-reviewed journals, but they don't make it to the mainstream, John. They're relatively obscure journals, very technical in some respects, but they're telling us that we literally, we are a soft technology. We're not computer chips and wires and chemicals. We are neurons and cell membranes and ion potentials moving across cell walls, and every cell in our body is a gated circuit. Every cell in our body is a transistor, capacitor. It emits light information, receives light information, stores and retrieves memory, and we self-regulate all of these functions through thought, feeling, emotion, breath, focus, the very core of our most ancient and cherished spiritual and indigenous traditions. So we are, in fact, a highly advanced, technologically sophisticated, soft technology. We're the only form of life that can consciously awaken the benefits of this technology on demand. And we are at a point in our lives where we're about to lose those abilities forever. Once they're gone, it's very, very difficult to get them back. Now, where the new discoveries come in is they're telling us just how much of ourselves we stand to lose. So, for example, we've been told, I know when I was in school back in the 50s, 60s, early 70s, I was taught that the neurons in the brain, for example, it's finite, a finite number of neurons. You get what you get when you're born. You drink too many beers in college, and that was the threat.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
what this what the studies are showing is that we are generating new neurons until the last breath on this earth. And there are ways to enhance that through epigenetic triggers that I'll share in the conference when we're there. But it goes beyond that. They're stem cells. We have been conditioned to believe that stem cells decline with age, and our ability to utilize the stem cells for healing and regeneration. A new class of stem cells has been found that is with us from till we take our last breath, and that we can access this new class of stem cells with all of the genetic blueprint for our bodies, just like the day we were born. It's with us, and it is with us in a way that was not recognized for a very long time. We can stimulate those and enhance those through epigenetic triggers that I'll be talking about, as well as the telomeres that keep the cells able to repeat all of their processes to divide. When the cell stops dividing, we call that senescence, old age and death. And typically the cells are programmed with only a certain number. It's called the Hayflick limit. Only a certain number of divisions are possible. Well, we know now that it's possible to transcend that limit through epigenetic factors. Again, I'm going to be sharing. So all of this is telling a new human story, John. And that human story is what makes us such powerful beings. And that power, I think, is what is so threatening to individuals and societies that are all about control. So as we relinquish these basic human functions, we become more susceptible to the ideas and the ways of living and thinking from others. So I'm not saying it right, wrong, good, or bad. I would never judge it. What I want to say, I'm asking the question, how much of ourselves do we want to give away to the technology? And we can't answer that until we know who we are. The new science is revealing a new human story. And once we see that story, John, what people begin to say is, the technology we can use as a tool, but not as a crutch. And the I'm beating around the bush. Elon Musk did a press conference recently. It's very interesting because his company is one of the companies that's advancing the computer chips in the brain. And he literally said in the interview, he says, I am frightened of where this technology is leading. He said, as a CEO of my company, I have to keep pushing the limits. But he was pleading. He said, please, we need to regulate these technologies. We need to reel in these technologies. The technologies have advanced faster than the morality of how they're used. So what we'll be doing in this conference, I'm going to reveal in a very user-friendly way the new science that tells us, perhaps for the first time, who we really are and on a deep, deep level. And then I'd like to, in the room, honoring all of the parameters that we have in place right now, sitting in our seats, I'm going to share techniques that allow us to self-regulate the fundamental systems in our body that reach out into everything from health and immunity to longevity um, to regeneration, to rejuvenation, all of those things. And, John, for me, the bottom line is the better we know ourselves, the less we fear
Yeah.
change in the world. Number one, the better we know ourselves, the less we fear one another. But I think maybe the most important thing here, and my sense from talking to people all over the world, many different languages, is we all have sensed that there's a power within us that's almost frightening. The better we know ourselves, the better we understand what that power means and how to apply it in our lives to become the best versions of ourselves, create healthy families, healthy communities, and the less we're going to fear the change in the outside world because our well-being is no longer hinged on something outside of us.
Yeah.
So the world has got to go through the change. We're in it. The only way out of it is to go through it. We can't go back.
Yeah.
As we embrace the deep truth of who we are and the power of this soft technology. I've got some amazing video footage I'm going to be sharing. This soft technology, it writes a whole new story and gives us a whole new way to think about our relationship to our own bodies, to one another, to the earth, to plants, to agriculture, to the cosmos, to all forms of life. And to me, I couldn't think of anything more exciting to share an afternoon exploring. So
Yeah, it's
uh,
the emergence. It's the emergence of a new human and a new world, Greg.
yeah.
And we've both talked about this for a long time. And you're singing my song. I was the last transition talk speaker, and I spent 5 hours, 4.5 hours, talking about the same thing. This dichotomy, this one technocracy kind of track that's all about control and the emergence and the freedom and sovereignty that comes from the other track, and the extraordinary kind of capabilities that the new human's going to have. And so this is an amazing period of time, a wonderful thing that we get a chance to be a part of.
It really is, John. And what I want people to know, I'm an optimist and I'm also a realist. Optimistically, I believe that we are building the world that we all know is possible. We're emerging into that world. Realistically, what's happening right now that we're in it, we're seeing two parallel societies that are emerging at the same time. And that's what you were just referring to. One is all in on the technology and surveillance and safety and security. And John, I've seen this just in my neighbors in the grocery store. There's another group that don't understand perhaps everything that's going on, but they said, wait a minute. something doesn't seem right, not so fast. And they're going back to the basics of food, of health, of healing, and education, raising their children. What's going to happen, John? It won't take long. This can't drag out. We're going to see these two parallel societies emerge, and we're going to do what humans always do. We check each other out, and we're going to see who is healthier, who's happier, who is more fulfilled in their lives. And the answer to that question ultimately is where my optimism comes from, because that is what's going to unify us. Whoever is healthier, happier, more fulfilled, everybody else can say, I want what they're having.
Yeah.
And this is when we emerge into a very, very different world. How can you know that until you know your relationship to your body? And that's what this program is going to be all about.
That's great. This is really going to be fun. I mean, it's always great fun to have you here. We enjoy it tremendously. But this is going to be particularly so because we're in the middle of this transition and it gets increasingly acute by the week, by the day almost. And so these topics and these issues are going to be very, very timely, and they are going to be very practical things about this emergence of this new human and this on the way to a new world. And this is nothing like this has ever happened on this planet before in recorded history, at least. And so it's an extraordinary time that we all have to be together and to participate in all of this. And it's particularly nice to have you with us. And so we're really looking forward to it on the 31st of July. That's a Saturday, as we always do, and we'll have a full day and we'll have a really great time. And we hope that you who are watching will come and be with us here in Berkeley Springs, or you can tune in, as I suggested earlier, by live stream. And all of that information is at transitiontalks.org. And whether you're here in person or you're here virtually, it's going to be a wonderful day. And we hope that you'll all be with us. And Gregg, very much looking forward to having you.